the number of available suites, adding 2 spectacular new categories. Spectacular is their word, not mine. At the top of the line, there are 2 new iconic suites situated above the ship's bridge. These near 2,600 square feet, 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom suites feature mind-blowing views thanks to panoramic windows enveloping the dining room, living room and bedrooms. The 700 square foot veranda offers a 270-degree view of the ocean. Another new suite class comprises of 6 split-level edge villas, which offer stunning views from 2 stories of windows, private plunge pools and direct walkout access to the retreat sun deck. Hopin also designed 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom penthouse suites with large soaking tubs on the veranda, large dual walk-through showers and expansive walk-in closets, and 146 large outward-facing sky suites. All suites and double occupancy edge staterooms are fitted with exclusively designed plush king-side cashmere mattress, no good for me being a vegan, which is an industry first, and offer personal butler services and access to the retreat. I mentioned the magic carpet. What's that? Well, it's a cantilevered from the side of the ship, and the magic carpet makes Celebrity's Edge distinctive profile recognisable from miles away. It's the size of a tennis court, and this incredible engineering feat scales a 16-deck ship through the day and evening, positioning at 4 of the ship's decks, transforming into a new and exciting experience in each one. At the summit of the ship on deck 16, the magic carpet becomes the ultimate specialty restaurant, offering dinner at the edge for 90 guests. So it does look like they are really changing how being on a boat feels. The Celebrity Edge will home port in Fort Lauderdale, which is in Florida, and it makes the first sailing on the 16th of December 2018. And you can book now, though I always say never go out on the first few weeks of a new hotel or ship or whatever, because there's going to be loads of teething problems. But anyway, if you want to book, you go to www.celebritycruises.com/edge, or you can speak to your travel agent. The ship's 2 7-night itineraries. There's an Eastern Caribbean cruise, which is in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Tortola, British Virgin Islands. Tortola's a lovely place. St. Martin, and the Western Caribbean calls on Key West in Florida, Costa Maya in Mexico, Cozumel in Mexico, Georgetown and Grand Cayman. Now, I love Grand Cayman, and last week I talked about Grand Cayman, but if you're on a cruise ship going to Grand Cayman, check the itinerary, see how many other ships will be in dock when you arrive, because I was there once and there's 4 ships. The place is tiny. It really can't handle 4 ships. If you're looking at, let's say 2,000, there's 8,000 people suddenly attending an island looking, there's only one bar, there's only one helicopter trip. But anyway, if you really want to do Grand Cayman and want to do it by cruise, check the itineraries of other cruise lines to see if you're going to be there on your own. At least you have a better chance of getting to see and do stuff. So don't forget, if you want to see the interactive media presentation, the link will be at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. You can keep up to date with travel news and leave me a message at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. So it's a news and tips session on this week's show. I just talked about the new Celebrity Cruises ship. Must get that right. I'm going to stick with cruising at the minute. I've come across this story in the Telegraph. I'm going to paraphrase it. And if you hear any noises in the background, my dog Max has joined me in the studios, and I haven't got the heart to kick him out because he's quite pooped. He's 12 3/4. And you've probably heard him on the show before because he does bark a lot when somebody bangs or walks near the studio. But anyway, back to cruises. Have you ever wondered what happens when you go for a pee or whatever on a cruise ship? Well, you may feel that it goes straight into the sea, but luckily it doesn't. I mentioned the new Celebrity Cruise, it's 3,000 people, but large ships can carry up to 6,500 people and nearly 2,500 crew. So that's an awful lot. And according to the Telegraph, that's a population nearly close to the residents of the City of London. So what does the cruise line do with the waste created during a cruise? Well, not just the human waste, but leftover food, bottles, cans, cardboard, paper, and anything else you just put in your wheelie bin or recycling box, or just flush or rinse down the toilet, the sink. Of course, you may think of Princess Cruises last year when it was fined a record £32 million for using what was called a magic pipe to illegally offload pollutants into the waters off the UK coast. Although this was oily water rather than human waste. The Telegraph reporter says that incidents such like this are rare, and in the Princess Cruises case it was a rogue engineer who was responsible, not the cruise line itself. But there's a lot of liquid to deal with on every cruise day. Even with systems designed to reduce the amount of water coming out of the bathroom taps and showerheads, the average ship will still use between 40 and 50 gallons per passenger per day. And this liquid is divided into two types. There's grey water, which is from galleys, laundries and bathrooms, and black water, which is lavatory waste, and it's mixed carefully before bioreactors deep in the bowels of the ship are set to work. All the nasty stuff is filtered out and digested by bacteria, and the remaining liquid is disinfected by UV radiation, rather than chemicals such as chlorine, which would be harmful to marine life if it is put out into the sea. Apparently, because this filtered radiated waste is so clean, some ports have given approval for it to be discharged closer to the statutory 12 miles from land. Around 3 tonnes of solid are left from the original 1,200 tonnes of waste per day, and this is incinerated or contained until it can be offloaded. Ships do have environmental officers, and the crew are responsible for their own recycling. For example, in some cases, cabin stewards really separate the paper, plastic, metal and glass from the cabin waste bins. All glass is separated from the different colours by being crushed and bagged. All paper, apart from that has been contaminated by such things as food, is baled and landed for recycling. You may not be surprised to know that the cardboard is the largest waste solid produced by volume, and that too is separated, bound and baled and landed ashore. The way cruise ships handle waste is governed by strict international maritime laws, which is administered by the London-based International Maritime Organisation, which you may not know or realise is a United Nations agency. The Marine Pollution Code is known as MARPOL, or MARPOL, and it prohibits any vessels or offshore platforms from disposing any form of plastics, cooking oil and incinerator ash into the sea. Some areas of the world, including the Baltic Sea, the Black Sea, the North Sea and the Caribbean and Antarctica, also have specially protected status with even tighter regulations. The disposal of waste in ports is just as carefully controlled and cruise lines go into great lengths to ensure that as much as possible is recycled and is sent to a landfill. There's also a code of conduct enforced by the Cruise Lines International Association, or CLIA, and that's stricter still. So when you go on a cruise and you flush the toilet, that's something for you to remember. It's just not going to go straight out of the toilet into the sea. There is strict regulations, a carefully controlled recycling scheme and purification systems on board the ship before anything gets taken off onto land or in the sea. If you have any experiences of blocked toilets or you've seen stuff floating in the sea behind a cruise, it possibly was a fault, let me know. Facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. What did you experience? How did the cruise company handle it? If you feel that stuff is done amazingly, I don't just want to hear the bad side. I'm not like a tabloid newspaper. I want to hear the good stuff too. The Facebook page is the same page to contact me. And after the jingle, I'm going to go on about some more stuff about cruises, and you may be surprised to find the outcome of this report. I'm going to be talking to you in a few moments. Checking it out before you check in on the John Guinn Travel Show on ukhealthradio.com. So before the break I was talking about recycling on board a cruise ship and how the wastewater is treated before it is pumped out to the sea or collected in any other method in the port. And now this is a surprising report I found also in the Telegraph travel section. And apparently, according to a report, air quality on cruise ships is 20 times worse than in a busy city centre. And this is due to the concentration of harmful particles in the air. And it says that being on board is worse than being in the city you're docked in or the port you're visiting. And the report has found that passengers on the cruise ship could be inhaling 60 times higher concentrations of harmful air pollutants than they would in a natural air setting. And this was discovered, or has been reported, by a German environmental association. A cruise ship that had just left the Marseille was measured by a journalist for the French documentary television series Télassa, and analysed by the environmental agency NABU, revealed that at peak levels the concentration of harmful ultrafine particles was 200 times higher than it would have been in natural fresh air surroundings and 20 times worse than busy city centres at some port cities, including Marseille. 4 out of 5 ships were found not to be equipped with any exhaust cleaning systems. These measurements were taken at various spots around the ship, and for this particular sample, the sun deck and jogging lane on the top deck were found to be the most affected by pollution. For this reason, the German Lung Association and the Pulmonologists, I bet I got that wrong, Association have warned passengers against staying on deck or inhaling ship's exhaust gases, as this could cause acute problems of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. COPD, that's an awful lot easier to say. You would think being on a health station, I'd be able to say health words a lot better than I can. But I'm an ex-travel agent, I can't even say half the destinations I sent people to. It's a problem. It's something I've tried working on. It's something I've given up, to be perfectly honest. So sue me if I don't pronounce something correctly. Well, don't, please. I've got no money. So you wouldn't get much anyway. Anyway, in addition to the fine dust and soot from funnels on cruise ships, passengers are exposed, according to this report, reported in the Daily Telegraph travel website, to harmful substances such as nitrogen oxides and heavy metals emitted by the combustion of marine diesel fuel and heavy oil. The World Health Organization, or WHO, in 2012 classified diesel exhaust just as carcinogenic as asbestos, and exposure to it increases your risk of getting lung cancer, according to the WHO. The German branch of the Cruise Lines International Association, which I mentioned earlier, the CLIA, denied the validity of the measurements, arguing that a more systematic test over a longer period of time is required rather than the recent selective samples of measurements taken. As there's no nitrogen emission control areas in European waters, only sulphur emission control areas, cruise lines are using systems that only reduce the amount of sulphur oxide, which can be as simple as using a diesel oil with lower sulphur content. And although systems that reduce particle and nitrogen oxide emissions have been available on the market for years, according to NABU, cruise companies have been unwilling to install these mechanisms because they require more expensive types of fuel to operate. So according to one side, it can be very dirty air to breathe on a cruise ship, and according to the representative of the cruise lines, the measurements were not taken over a suitable period. But what about you? I've been on a cruise ship once. It was one day round the Isle of Wight. It was a travel agent launch. My worst ever travel experience. I keep saying that an awful lot, but I won't say the cruise company. So you might say I'm slightly biased against cruises, but I'm open-minded. I'll just probably never go on one again. So not that open-minded. What about you? If you've been on a cruise, are you one of these people who feel that cruises are excellent, and as soon as you finish, you're looking forward to the next one? You maybe even booked your next cruise before you've got off the original cruise holiday? Or have you been on a cruise ship and you felt ill because of the air you were breathing? I'm interested in looking into this more before I go back to the cruise lines to see if there's anything to stand up for when it comes to this report. Let me know. Facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. Did you feel the air was clean or dirty when you're on your last